Justin Welby's decision this week to resign as the Archbishop of Canterbury has brought renewed scrutiny on how religious institutions respond to allegations of abuse. The Archbishop was found to have sat on accusations of abuse raised against John Smythe, a barrister and evangelical Christian involved in a ministry for children. Now, John Smythe was one of the Church of England's most prolific abusers of boys and young men. I'll note he has since died. He died in South Africa in 2018. The search now begins for the new spiritual leader of the more than 85 million Anglicans in the world, including about 3 million in Australia. The Most Reverend Jeremy Greaves is the Archbishop of Brisbane, himself a survivor of sexual abuse, I should note, not within the church, though. And he joins us now from Brisbane. Reverend, good morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, Thomas. Good to talk to you.
First of all, what's been the reaction within the Anglican Church here in Australia to this news of the Archbishop of Canterbury's resignation?
Look, I think it's been mixed, but, I'm particularly mindful of victim survivors who are going to be traumatised and re-traumatised by the stories coming out of the Church of England, and they're sort of front of mind for me as the stories unfold and as we work out just what the implications might be across the Anglican Communion.
How significant is this moment, given what you just said, in the ongoing reckoning, I guess, over sexual abuse within the Church and religious institutions more broadly?
Look, I think it's incredibly significant, and it reminds us about the importance of not being complacent about the work that needs to be done in this space. The Makin review in the Church of England pointed to some very similar concerns that were identified by the Royal Commission in Australia in 2017. And so it's really important that we keep these things front of mind as we move forward.
Yeah, and the Makin review, for people who might have been following the story, is what led to the resignation of the Archbishop into the actions of John Smythe. Reverend, you're a survivor of abuse yourself, not from within the Church, I should note, but you mentioned the Royal Commission here in Australia. It's been about 6 years since it came to an end now. How far has the Church come since the Royal Commission here, and do you feel as though there is still a way to go?
I think, there is a lot of work that's been done across churches and other institutions in Australia, but I think we can always do better. And I think, the cultural changes that the Royal Commission pointed to being required, that's a gradual process. And so, those concerns about clericalism in the Church, about abuse of positions of trust and power, about protecting reputation, those are things that we've still got work to do, I think, in all sorts of ways.
And with the resignation of Justin Welby, any idea who is likely to be the next Archbishop of Canterbury?
No, look, I think there will be plenty of speculation, and I think in the Anglican Communion, which is quite polarised, there will be people from every part of the tradition hoping that their person gets up. But that's work for the Crown Nominations Committee in the Church of England to do, and we'll watch and wait.
Can I ask you as well, Reverend, a couple of months ago you apologised on behalf of the Church to the LGBTQI community for harm and hurt caused to them. As you mentioned, the Anglican Church quite divided in many ways. What's been the response since then?
Our apology in Brisbane came at the end of a long process of consultation and listening with the LGBTIQA plus community so that we could get the words right. And, the apology was perhaps rightly greeted by some with scepticism, the idea that it was too little too late and, why should we trust you? You don't have a good track record in this space. But also with incredible grace from some others who've perhaps been waiting their whole lives to hear the Church say something meaningful in this space. And I guess for us, the hard work now is living into the apology, making sure it is actually meaningful as we continue the work of making the Church a safe and welcoming space for LGBT people as well as everyone else.
And I wanted to ask you about that. What do you see as the next step now in making people of different sexual and gender identities feel welcome within the Church?
I think part of it is education. I think we need to do some better biblical scholarship so that people across the church have a better sense of what the scriptures may or may not say about these things. I think ultimately, we are called to love every single person as created in the image of God, and that's regardless of gender or sexuality or race or creed. And that's a really important first principle that we just need to keep reminding people of.
Just on that divide we were discussing a moment ago, Reverend, your diocese is one of the country's largest, I should note, and it's been at the centre, it seems, of a split between the progressive and conservative wings of the Anglican Church, the issue of gay marriage in large part causing that. Are you worried that divide will continue to widen?
Look, I think we're working hard, particularly in this diocese, to create a space. We're using the language of comprehensiveness, which talks about the sort of big tent Anglicanism that's always been a hallmark of this part of the church. And that's hard work. And it means that people at both ends, the progressives at one end and the conservatives at the other, need to work really hard to see in the other the image of God. But it's a project that is absolutely worth persevering with. I think if we can, in the church, get this stuff right about how to deal with difference, we might just be a bit of a gift to the rest of the world, which is deeply polarised around so many things.
Reverend, it's great to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks a lot. The Most Reverend Jeremy Greaves there, the Archbishop of Brisbane.